Hello friends! Today we are going to exercise our godlike power and make the sun rise! I'm starting with this painting of a farm, and if you want to know how I painted it, check out my other video. I put a link in the video description. Now this shot is daytime and we need it to be night to start, because sunrise goes from night to day, if you didn't know. This is a duplicate version of my file so I don't screw up the original. And I'm going to start by changing the sky color. You can see in my layers that I have my foreground, middle ground, background, and sky separated. My sky is in 3 different colors, so it makes this pretty gradient. But I have them on different layers so I have maximum control. I'll change the first color to this dark navy, and then the next to this deep royal blue, and finally this other grayish blue. Now we have to adjust the foreground, middle ground, and background. There are a few different ways of making adjustments. One way is to grab a color like this blue from the sky and fill a layer, and go up here and change the mode. Now there are a lot of different modes, so you can test out a few until you get the effect you want. Let's try multiply. It darkens everything by the color. That doesn't look quite like I want it to, so let's try color. It changes everything to that color while maintaining the tone. And I'm just going to reduce the opacity so it's more blue but not completely blue. This obviously isn't dark enough, but I like how it changes the intensity and makes it a bit blue. Now if we hold the Alt or Option key while clicking on the layer, it makes it a clipping mask, so it only affects the layer or group of layers below it. Let's duplicate this effect and clip it to the foreground, middle ground, and background separately. Now let's do an adjustment layer. Again, there are lots of options, but we want exposure, and we'll clip it. Be darker, please. That's better. And do that to the mid and foregrounds. Now I'm just going to adjust each ground differently. Sometimes you can get away with just doing a single adjustment to the whole thing, but I like doing it separate so I have more control. It's still not blue enough, so let's just add a color balance adjustment. Less yellow, more blue. I decided I wanted to vignette the middle ground a bit so I can darken it but keep the focal point in the middle ground a bit brighter. And I'll just fiddle with this stuff until I like it. Now that looks okay, but I don't think it's done yet. I have 3 color layers. My midtones, shadows, and highlights are separated. I'm going to apply my adjustments separately to each of these layers. And now I have even more control. I'm going to make a teal layer and change the mode to overlay and clip it to my highlights. I'll do a similar adjustment to my midtones, but I'll make the adjustment more subtle. And merge them down. Now I'm going to do some final adjustments to specific colors that just don't look quite right. My colors are blocked in aliased, and the texture is done in mask, so I can easily select and adjust my colors individually. This is explained more thoroughly in my other video. It's linked in the video description. Now I'm just going to do similar fiddling with the background and foreground and adjust the middle ground more. Even adjust the sky. There, I like that. Okay, now we need to add the moon, so my painting can moon you. The moon is pretty much round, and we need to draw a circle. I want this to be a really good circle, but look hand-drawn, so I'm literally going to trace a circle I made with the circle tool. I looked up some reference, and I'm just going to draw some crater blobs and stuff, and quickly color that in. Color the line with a clipping mask. Let's make it a crescent moon by making this part almost the sky color. I have a fun science fact about the moon. We always see the same face of the moon because it rotates to face us. The same forces that cause the tides in the sea cause the moon's rotation to synchronize with its rotation around the Earth. The dark side of the moon refers to the other side that does not face the Earth, not the part that is dark. The dark side of the moon is actually completely lit during the new moon when we see only the shaded side. Okay, time to add stars. I want this star field to rotate as time passes, so I made a new file that is huge so I can make that happen. I have a few special brushes for stars. They scatter randomly. They're really easy to make yourself. Just look in the brush settings and play around. I'll make some big stars and small stars. Just try and make it look all natural. If you live in the city, you might not see very many stars because of the light pollution. But here at the cartoon farm, we can see the stars. Okay, our assets for nighttime is done. Let's open another duplicate of my original file for dawn. Let's look for some color reference. Google search dawn. Kinda like this purple orangey feel. Ooh, this one's nice. Let's try and do something like that. Here we go. Purple and orange sky. And do some adjustments here to make this purpley and darker. I'm making the background a little more pink. And my foreground more blue. And I want my shadows more purple and my highlights more orange. Add in the sun. And a nice glow. I want my sun to be a separate object, so the glow is a regular color, not an adjustment layer. I'm going to be pulling these elements into After Effects, and adjustment layers don't translate across programs. And I can easily add adjustments in After Effects if I want. I like this reddish glow in the reference, so let's try to do that. Beautiful. Okay, we got all our stuff. I exported a bunch of PNGs, the sky, background, middle ground, and foreground for each time of day, and we have our sun, moon, and star field. And let's open After Effects. We have our new project, and I'm going to start a new composition. Make sure it's 1920 by 1080. And for animation, I always like to make it 24 frames per second. It doesn't really matter for this, but if you're bringing in animation at 24 frames per second, you want it all to be the same. Okay, let's drop in our assets. Blammo. And pull them into our composition timeline at the bottom here. The skies need to be at the bottom, then the backgrounds, the middle grounds, and last but not least, foregrounds. I also need those stars, moon, and sun. I always make my assets way bigger than they need to be, so I can zoom in if I need to for the animation. Let's just shrink all of this stuff down so we can see the whole thing. Time to play with the stars. I'm going to move the star field and the anchor point so that when it rotates, there are always stars in the sky. This is a bit fiddly, but eventually I figure it out. Animation in After Effects is very math. You click on the little stopwatch so you can create these little nodes in our timeline. Then we can tell the computer box that at this point in time, the rotation is this amount, and at that point in time, the rotation is this other amount. And then the computer says, okay, I'll do that, and stuff moves on your screen like magic. Now I want the sun and moon also to rotate, just like the stars. I'm going to go to the point in my timeline when I want the moon to be in the sky, because unparented, that is its current position. Then I parent the moon to the stars. I then go to where I want the sun to be in the sky on the timeline and parent that. Now, like little baby ducklings, they're going to follow their parent around. That was fun. Now let's do the lighting transitions. I have my different time of day stacked with night on top, then dawn, then day. I'm going to make the night layers invisible as the sun rises so you can see the dawn layer below it. We'll just find the sunrise on our timeline and click the stopwatch beside opacity and make it 100% here and 0% here. Do the same thing with the middle ground, background, and sky. And don't forget the stars. Hey, you have dark stars. That looks weird. Let's change the blending mode to lighter color. That's better. Ooh, transition. Okay, let's do the same thing for day. When the sun's about here, it should be day. So let's play with opacity. La la la. Daytime. Okay, I know somebody's gonna tell me the sun should go the other way because they think we are looking north and the sun goes east to west, whatever. But I did it this way because in Western culture, we like when stuff goes from right to left. It's how we read, and it's the way that Mario goes in old school video games. So my smart person solution is that we're actually looking south-ish and not north-ish. I can make you look south if I want to. It's my cartoon. I'm getting this weird halo effect around the edges of my layers because there are some translucent pixels, and the dawn and day layers are showing through. So I'm going to make the dawn and day layers invisible until the transitions happen. Okay, let's add some effects, because this is After Effects, and we have to add effects. First, let's change the color of the sun when it turns to day. That yellow looks weird. In our effects, go to color correction, and let's try exposure. Drag that puppy into our sun layer, and click the stopwatch on exposure. Here it's nothing, and there it's brighter. Perfect. Now it's moon play fun time. I'm gonna change the path of the moon a bit, because it should travel a bit different from the stars, because it's in orbit and science stuff. There. And why don't we add a glow to the moon? Fiddle with the settings. I'm gonna make this a duplicate and stick it behind a moon without a glow. Just make sure to parent it so it has the same motion. I know what you're thinking. You want more effects. Let's add a bit of a zoom out at the beginning with fancy parallaxing. First parent your foreground to the middle ground and your middle ground to your background. Then we're going to go into the background layer and zoom it just a bit. And then go into the middle ground layer and zoom it just a little bit more. And finally, in the foreground, a little bit more. And because it's all parented together, the effects are compounded. Each level moves a little bit more, and you get parallaxing. It's magical. I also made it darker before the moon rises. That's exposure again. And the sun is boring, so let's do something fancy. I'm going to make a new composition and plop our old composition inside. That flattens it so I can make effects on the whole thing. Let's go in our effects and generate CC light rays and plop that on our layer. Now we're just going to move the center to match the sun and make sure it goes invisible when the sun is not in the shot. And I'm done. Time to export. Add composition to render queue. The internet likes H.264, but if you're still editing it together, you can use other exports with less compression, and then do the compression on the final export. And now we'll hit render, and we have our finished video. So beautiful, makes you want to cry. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know by liking the video or leave a comment. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more animation stuff. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!